Hello and welcome everybody to King of the Hill on Throne. Today you're joining me for an exciting game of 56 versus 7, and even better than that, Twig and Tank Tom are in the middle, and not just that, they're on comms while they're playing with me. For those of you wondering whether that's fair, maybe not, but we also think that there's a lot of people watching the stream listening to what's going on, so all secrets will be revealed to all. So what is it that's going on? Right now we have a 10-minute no rush that is denoted by that beautiful lava and, interestingly enough, the topography change which allows this to happen. Throne is normally stacked on its way up, but in this particular circumstance, it's got a lovely donut that everyone has to deal with. That is brought to you by Chronographer from the AllReasonNoLogic Discord. Big thanks to that one. So, how do the Kings win, considering there's only 7 of them? Well, they've got a plus 55% bonus, and if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, you would have heard the concept that 1 is greater than 5, if that 1 is a fist and the 5 are individual fingers. But there's some pretty fierce competition around the outside. Looking at the bottom right-hand side, we do have a devastatingly powerful player, Milady. We've seen some incredible builds out of them in the past few weeks. In particular, there was a great a great Raptor Creator match where they managed to, on their own, match the eco of a player that was doing co-op eco. And right next to them is Amir of similar fame. So this should be an absolutely devastating position to push out from, but the Kings are backed up by some very powerful players themselves. Paumont, known for absolutely amazing attacks as well as solid defenses, and then we also have Duffy in the top of the map, who is known for the absolutely amazing co-op Peasant play, as well as some incredibly solid early T3 out of the Kings, not to mention 2 shitters, Tank Tom and Twig, who may or may not lose the game for the Kings.
I just
Now,
hope
a couple
that, Amir and Melody aren't down the bottom right where all the most powerful players seem to always go in this game.
It does seem to be it certainly does seem to be a thing. And with T2 already running, they're going to be in a position of power. Now, a couple of other things to note. There are a few unit tweaks. So, for example, you won't be seeing certain missile artillery at the T2 level. It is available at the T3, but we're not going to be able to shell the top of the map with arbiters, and air is off. Now, getting underway, Twig, why don't you run us through your build at the moment? It looks a little bit chaotic, looks a little bit hectic. In fact, one of your solars is not aligned with the others. How does this make you feel? Are your parents proud of you for being such a failure?
They're going to be gone soon. I'm actually just trying to get my eco as far away from this wing as possible by the time we get to the 10-minute mark. So all the stuff you see is going to be gone.
He says building energy converters right by the edge.
They'll be gone.
Tank Tom, with a lot more structure on this end, even though it does seem to look a little bit chaotic, run me through what your plan is before the 10-minute mark.
The plan was going to be to get this T2 up, which I'm bottoming out my metal.
Then eat your storage. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. But you are doing one of the cardinal sins. You're constructing other things at the same time as your T2 lab. You've got a comm there, in range. Eat it with your comm, man. If anybody
got someone trying to talk to me at the same time as well. Does not help things.
Look, let's just be honest. If you've watched Tank Tom's Road to OS 25, one of the things that we have gotten into the habit of doing is critiquing each other's play, because we all want to end up at that magical OS 50, though I don't think any of us are quite at that level yet. Especially when you look at what's going on down at the bottom of the map, where you have players like Classic Milady and Emir that are all working together near flawlessly to be pushing out this energy and getting themselves in a great position to carry this game if they need to. But looking at the top of the map as well, we're also seeing a couple of other co-op positions doing it decently well as a few that are not quite as far ahead. When you build labs individually, you tend to fall a little bit behind in those spots, but I do love that there is quite a lot of sharing going on. Now, for those of you wondering, what's with the lack of C on Throne? Well, we noticed that when we had C, we ended up with quite a lot of players that would go into a C economy and then wouldn't really contribute to the rest of the match. So instead we have dried the C out, and now we have these spots where people start with basically nothing, but they are the tipping point of the match. If the middle can hold long enough, then these outside of the map will scale hard enough to overtake the kings. If the middle can't hold enough, then these players need to come online early to help them hold the line. If they do not, it tends to be a king's victory. Now, looking back into the kings, because these are the heroes of the match, I guess you could say, at this particular time, the ones that are going to be struggling, and also because I have to favor Tank Tom and Twig, because otherwise they'll get angry at me. Does it look like we've got that T2 economy starting to roll? Twig has got his T2 extractors going. Tank Tom in a similar position, last one coming down, and we does look like we're going to have a nice aggressive amount of play. Every single one of these players does know what they're doing, and they're going into the level of eco they're going to need in order to hold and then win those early pushes. Now, for those of you wondering around the outside, what can the peasants do to win? Constant aggression. If you control that middle tier and you can shell up to the high ground, you will eventually break through the kings. If you do not control that middle tier, the kings will be able to gain access to all of that additional metal, but more importantly, space. Right now, the kings are limited on space. If their builds aren't perfect, then they're going to be very limited on what they can do. They're going to be constantly micromanaging in their bases. Units won't be able to flow from player to player to help, and the kings will not escalate their advantage into the late game. So, unlike on Raptor Crater, the T1 rush doesn't tend to work out quite as well as it does there, because the sheer amount of defenses that can be placed by the players directly in front of the ramps is astounding. However, using T1 for scouting and then using T2 with long range, things like Sheldons, Hounds, in particular Starlights, if you can get them rolling, is phenomenal. The other big one that the kings are incredibly weak to is anything that can traverse a wall. So if you can run up here with some spiders, you're going to get damage done. The kings need to build defenses against it, but this is a game of choices. You cannot choose to do absolutely everything in the game. Otherwise, you'll end up behind in all of them. There is no jack of all trade in this case. A couple of other things to note. On the peasant side, these cliffs are not always the barriers that you would expect. Quite a lot of them, in fact, are traversable. Once you've got a bot unit, grab that. Use the F2 command, I believe, if you're on legacy keys, and you can see anywhere that isn't red. So, for example, these areas right here, those are traversable. So that means even T3 Razorbacks can walk up them. All right, with 20 seconds to, with 2 minutes to go. Probably freaked you guys out just there. With a little under 2 minutes to go, this is the sort of time that the kings are going to have to start putting their money where their mouth is and getting their defenses rolling, as well as the peasants are going to have to start getting ready to receive those attacks. Comms are the absolute peak of defense against T2 and T3 units. An invisible comm sitting in the right place can do a ludicrous amount of damage. In one of last week's matches, there was a game that was reasonably close. The peasants were slightly winning, but on the bottom half of the map, a push of over 150... oh dear, I've forgotten the name of the lightning tanks. Jaguars. 150 Jaguars pushed a ramp, and a single comm stayed invisible as they started rolling around it, dropped a couple of D-guns, they shot it, it exploded, and it killed over 100 of them, allowing for the ramp to be completely held. If for reference, a Jaguar is 330 metal, which means 33,000 metal was destroyed by a single comm. That's the sort of efficiency that you're going to need if you want to try... Well, you don't need that much efficiency, but if you can trade like triple the value for a comm, it's worth it. And With 20 seconds to go, let's grab a quick drag across the map to see where all of the units are. And it does look like the Kings are going to be in a half-decent position to hold this one, as the players are a little behind the 8-ball in getting up there. Let's see what they can do, though. Looking to the right-hand side, this is the area that is going to be the most threat, well defended with units moving up. And we do have those Sheldons with the long range, but they're also running into one of the largest offenses out of the Kings. Those Jags going to do decent damage out of the gate, though I don't think they're going to be able to push through with just how much. Something to bear in mind, units that use lightning also have some resistance to lightning, so if these had been pop-ups, they wouldn't have been quite as effective against the Jaguars, but it does look like they're going to be cleaned up. A nice push going up, a couple of beamers, a couple of LLTs, and a couple of sentries. Doesn't look like that's quite enough. And the pawns are inside of Potato's base. This defense looked good, but without any AoE, without the dragon's claws, only the dragon's teeth, a lot of damage has been done here. And if they can grab that construction, the build power as well, that's going to be a nice spot. Now all we need is for that T2 to get back into it and start the shelling. Response coming from the other side of the map. Kukato is sending units to try and deal with this, but this is going to slow the roll on this side of things. Thankfully, I do reckon this will stabilize nicely. Pushing out with the Kings, though, looking to the bottom half of the map, we do have a T1 pusher pounders, but they are being shelled by those Hounds. The Hounds, provided they're controlled well, should be able to keep this nice and clean, and with all those LLTs up there and Twin Guards, should be a rough push out for anybody there. Some spiders making their way down on the bottom half of the map. Interestingly enough, you don't actually need these to be spiders, except for the fact that they're coming down from the high ground. They would be able to walk up quite a lot of these areas themselves. Interesting tactic going with Cortex and choosing spiders. You don't normally see the Termite. You normally see the Armada Recluse. Wait, is it the Recluse? I'm not doing well with names today.
It is. You got it right. Have faith in yourself.
I have had a slightly tiring weekend. Does look like this was cleaned up by Milady, the biggest threat in one of the biggest threats in the match. Unfortunately, not going to be taken out by a handful of spiders. Big push in the top half of the map. I like this defense here. The Rattlesnake is going to do a great job at starting to push this back, and there is quite a bit down on the ground to deal with it, but it is only 2 players really that are defending this ramp. You need a lot more than that, because as you can see, if the Fiends start a Russian, well, this isn't. They don't have to get all the way across Siberia.
Friend boys.
And once they're in it, they are really in. The one good thing about Fiends is they do have to get quite close, so eventually they'll blow themselves up on things, so just like what happened there with the geothermal, but plenty of pawns running in. And this is where you need to be able to transition very quickly from eco into units. All of these players here, all these players around, so the eco player above, the eco player below, you really do need to do your best to work your way in and try to assist best as possible, even if you're in the back of these maps, these dry seas. Yes, I know you're not going to have a lot of metal right now, but if the players in front of you fall, then that is a problem. What have we got here? Oh dear, we've had a gauntlet put down right next to Kukato's base. That is a big no-no. Looks like Angry will be feeling the wrath right there of that. That is not a good time. If there is a second defense, they will get a ban. You cannot be building defenses in the areas that are used as to be used offensively. Looking around the map, it does look like the Kings are doing very good in the top half of the map to push out, but in the bottom half it does look like the Peasants have got that nice offensive going. There is a decent amount of defenses coming out of Potato with those Starlights, but they are in range of the Sheldons, and so they are being taken out. So much T1 here that the shots are not landing where they need to land. There is a Razorback and more coming, but the question is, will they arrive in large enough numbers in time? Because this is one of those make or break points. Whoever wins this current engagement is going to hold the line for a very long time, and it does look like it is the Kings. Jumping back up to the top half of the map, this is one of the problems if you don't hold the Kings at the ramps. They are spilling out in all directions, and we're seeing even though the dry sea players are starting to get units out, the sheer mass that's coming down at them will be a problem. And all of the units spilling out down the lanes that did not expect to need to be defended will also be a problem. We do need to see some damage coming down on the Kings soon, and that is what's happening in the top right-hand side. Some Recluses are up on the high ground. They are doing some damage. They're starting to break through, but they're only hitting defenses, which is exactly what we need to see for the Kings to survive this one. And with quite a lot of defenses around here, I think that they will be just fine, though the Recluses will keep on coming. Thankfully, we do have Duffy with enough eco to somewhat manage this, but he does have to get his conversion back down.
Speaking of conversion, I need more of that myself.
Thankfully, the Razorbacks have moved their way around to start defending this and push those units back. And even though we have had a little bit of a problem in this top right-hand side, it looks like it may end up not being too much of a problem overall, because the Peasants are just unable to mount an effective defense in these positions. They are the sheer wave of welders followed by Sheldons, and then a little bit of spam as well, is just making its way down to the bottom left of the map, taking out the dry sea players as they go. The dry sea players are not yet a threat, so I do understand taking them out, but they're definitely not the greatest concern. Twig is in trouble right now. Thankfully, with these T2 walls being MVP right now, they are blocking most of the damage that these Kargis are trying to put up, and even though Twin Guards are not the best thing at killing the Karganets, the sheer volume of fire coming down, as well as the Termites, is doing a good job, also having the economy pushed well and truly in. Twig, do you only have one APHIS at 16 minutes?
I'm going into units. Portmont's been going into the eco, so I'm playing more like that player, getting units out.
Fair enough. And thankfully, with the exclusion zone that you've created, you were able to defend this incredibly harsh push of Karganets. I'm surprised that that was defended. Jumping back to the left side of the map, these units are just completely unchecked at the moment. They're getting in, they're dealing damage, and they just do not seem... there does not seem to be the combined forces here to stop them. This is one of those times where all the players really need to potentially pull back a little bit, build up the forces, and engage in proper quantities, because you cannot fight this just trickling units in. You have to engage them with force. But they are not the only place with problems. We do see Tank Tom is pushing out with a vengeance, making his way up towards one of the danger zones of the map, trying to get as much damage done as possible, and this attack is going to force units that could otherwise be used for defending that higher ground into a position where they have to defend. Unfortunately for Tank Tom, though, running into a couple of scuttles, taking out a lot of those T2 units. The Pounders being the only ones left, and I don't believe Pounders can actually make it up that cliff. It does look like an unbroken red line, so they might look like a threat, but they're not actually too bad of one. And the real problem they're going to run into is whether or not the power corner in the bottom right manages to find a way in, and it just doesn't look like they're going to. Twig's strategy of pulling right back from the edge seems to be working out very, very well. Finally, the attack on the left-hand side has been repelled, but a huge amount of damage is done, and I think the only reason it's being repelled is because that attack is now heading up to the top, into the top middle of the map. Acom doing a great job with 31 kills at this point, and managing to back out. It does look like the rest of this attack is mostly spam, which I think will get cleaned up nicely. So good defending right here from Retired Panda and Palpic, who are holding the line here. We do need to see some backup though from a few of the other players around them. Right now we don't see I kill you for fun under too much threat, and so those snipers would be a great option to push down. Not to mention the sheer amount of reclaim around. You have to put your units where the defenses are, or where the defense is needed. Looking at the rest of the map, it does look like some of the outer players are starting to come online with fusions online. Aphises coming up, and a T3 lab as well. This should start to tip some units in. The sort of things that are going to be wildly effective here are your catapults, because even if the other players do get shields, you can still lob those missiles at will. You also do have the option of building vanguards. That are going to be quite strong as well, but they can be blocked by shields, but in enough numbers that just doesn't matter. Looking at the income right now, it is very even at approximately 1500 with approximately 1900 without reclaim for the kings to 2300 for the peasants. So even though the peasants have taken a substantial amount of damage, this top left corner falling, not completely but mostly, the kings are not pulling too far ahead. This is the normal progression of the game, where there is one area that the kings do put a lot of force onto, but it doesn't necessarily mean the game is over. It's how the peasants react to it that matters. Tank Tom's big push all the way, he's stuck all the way back into the base. He's been pushed all the way back into his own base and working on his economy to try to get the T3 that is required for this next stage. Just missed it there, but a great shot, some great shots coming out of the catapults have fired up into the middle lane. Pormont's build power has been taken out, which means that the counter catapults are going to be very, very slow in coming now. If they can get a couple more shots on it, they will be able to punch straight into those advanced converters, which I reckon will detonate that entire entrance open. But we do have Grumpiness's Titans coming in to try and defend this one, and those will be a staunch wall that will be hard to push through. But looking at the top of the map, all of that defense has done an incredibly good job, but it is finally starting to fall. Retired Panda and Palpakip have done an absolutely amazing job of holding this, but with the limited supports provided by the players around them, there really was only so much time that they could continue to hold out. And with the beamers falling, with the construction power falling, and now with the conversion down, it's just going to be a matter of time before this Bastion of Hope is completely destroyed. Speaking of Bastions of Hope, we have had J Frost and I Kill You for Fun holding out with snipers in the next lane across. They are continuing to do so, but these probes are getting deeper and deeper into the match. We'll see how much longer this top half can hold out for. Economy's running in parallel, but once players start falling, the kings should start pushing ahead. The question is, will this bottom half of the map be strong enough to break in anytime soon, or will the kings start to wrap around? Right now, the tools for the amount of reclaim are not working in this one particular area, but looking at the sheer number of welder corpses there, I would say that there is probably close to 20,000 metal, if not more, in this top triangle. Because a lot of things were killed by beamers, they did all leave the corpses. If this does clear up, I would either there we go, 37.6 thousand metal reclaim in this top part of the map. That is enough to change the game for either team. Whoever gets it is going to be in a good spot. If you can't get it, degun it. Looking at the bottom of the map, it does look like Pormont has managed to get their build power back online, and with so many T3 units pouring out, the catapults are not able to get in range to take it out again. One of the things you have to try to balance as the peasants is how much do you try to kill the enemy units versus how much damage you try to do to the base. If you spend too long killing the base, then the units will overwhelm you, but if all you're doing is killing those units, then the kings will continue to scale. Does look like the top of the map now is starting to turn into a graveyard. It doesn't look like the players on the dry sea have managed to come online fast enough to assist, and now we've got T3 starting to get down into these large wind farms. And more than that, we have the ticks inside the base going for the converters, some sprinters trying to clean it up, but this will be just a matter of time. And because of all the chain reacting, these ecos are going down in a big way. This is going to even things up quite nicely, though. Looking at the economy, it is well in favor of the peasants because they are getting a bunch of the reclaim.
God damn.
One of the things we desperately need to see out of the
What
kings.
happened, Tom?
Oh no!
Got off the back.
Oh dear, vanguards. Oh no, they're your vanguards.
I had Kargs come up the back.
All the Karganets that were targeting Twig came their way across to Tank Tom, and they have cleared him out. Tank Tom's going to need this is a complete reset for Tank Tom. This has just dropped the King's economy from 2,000 to 1,500, which means that 25% of the metal income is off of the map for the Kings. This is a absolutely devastating blow, and this is one of the reasons that when you're the Kings, you have to win in a convincing fashion, because even a single broken lane for the Kings can result in a massive loss, because you're losing a seventh of your entire team from a single player going down. But not only that, that attack avenue becomes a opening into the heart of the base. All that would need to happen right now is for a large volume of either vanguards or other units that can climb those walls to punch on in. Not to mention, the Kings now have to devote a lot of their energy to defending that position, which was being taken up by Tank Tom. So the units that are needed for defense are not going to be in the other locations. And we can see that immediately as the build power's gone down for Pormont, and these Titans are out there basically undefended. We're going to need to see a real pullback from this top side of the map, which gives the Peasants time to recover up there, to try and sweep down from this top half, from this right half of the map, back down and around, to put the Peasants that are fighting in the bottom of the map on two fronts instead of just the one that they're pushing. And here comes the big push, I think. We're getting a large number of ticks, we're getting Juggernauts, and we're getting Demons pushing in. The Juggernaut is an existential threat in this situation, because regardless of whether it does the damage, if it gets in, its explosion will do the damage for the Kings. For the Peasants. So as long as it walks up, though, it does look like the corpses of the Demons are its biggest problem. Twig has played defensively on this one, has held his area, but the question is, can Twig hold all these Demons that are running straight into the middle of the map? I don't actually reckon that there's anything that's going to clear this demon up before it at least gets the build power in the middle of the map. And if the build power gets taken out, then there goes the Titans. And I do believe that the Kings are essentially done for now, unless we see some sort of miracle, because with another player going down, the middle eco is gone, the T3 defenses are gone, and even though the Kings have done such a good job of clearing the top of the map, I reckon that they're toast. Twig, your comm was not in a position. This is all your fault.
Yes, my comm was in my lane defending this is why, as the eco position, I mean, I don't know where that comm went as eco position in the middle. I always keep it, just in case. But obviously, we were never going to win that one. That was just...
very well done out of the Peasants in the bottom half of the map. You guys tried the T1, you pushed with T2, you came over the walls with T3, you put pressure on with T3 at the ramps, and you sieged until you cracked and broke. And not only that, you rotated the units up to take out areas that, even though they had the information, the attack just hadn't come onto them. It's a really good timing right there. You've
do this one at like plus 70 last time, I reckon. I just feel like we could not compete.
You definitely struggled, but consider that the top half of the map couldn't compete with the top half of the map couldn't compete either. So
part of one thing I did wrong was, rather than continuing to push that open top side we had, I tried to start fighting down the bottom where it was all heavily defended on the Peasant side, and I should have just kept going around the outside.
The fact is,
ignored this bottom side.
It takes a long time to break the Kings. Even if you're in good positions, it takes a long time to break the Kings. If you are in a position to be walking around the outside dealing damage, that is 100% the call that should be made. The Kings are going with one final Razorback push. They've got one comm left. And it is not long for this world. We'll see how far this squad of 73, which was 100 Razorbacks, manages to push its way out. These have been shared between the different players that have energy left, though a bunch of them have gone to Grumpiness, who definitely doesn't have the energy to power them. But once these units fall, I think that's going to be the end for the Kings, and when the Kings are ready to, we'll appreciate a Control D out of that last comm, so we can start jumping into the next match. Very well played though out of the Peasants. The scaling in this bottom half of the map was excellent, especially considering that they did not take the foot off of the gas the whole time. Top half of the map, particularly this top corner that was held by Palprica, and I do believe it was I'm very sorry, I'm missing your name from the list now. But that one top spot was done incredibly well. You held for an incredibly long time against overwhelming forces, so nicely done. GG, and well played by everyone. Let's get ready for the next game. If you enjoyed this one, like, subscribe. Jump into the AllReasonNoLogic Discord. If you're enjoying the stream, please feel free to leave a follow, leave a like, subscribe to the official, or jump over to jump over to our channels where we're also streaming this, and give us some love over there as well. We do appreciate it. Let's get the next one up and running. We'll see how big the lobby is, and we might move over to Raptor Crater. You never know, if you make this game exciting enough, it might end up on the YouTubes, but that is a big maybe, because both Twig and Tank Tom are in the game, so their commentary will probably be bad. Mine will be...
Are you saying that we can't do multiple things at once?
Yes,